Our first author flew all the way from Japan to get here. She is the author of Military and Mindful, Benefsheh Verell. Benefsheh, join me out here. Hello.
So excited. Thank you.
Quick jaunt over from Japan.
Not so quick, but yes.
Well, we are excited you're here. We're excited to talk about Military and Mindful. The subtitle on your book is 8 Essential Elements to Manage Your Military Career and Motherhood. Not words you always hear together, military and motherhood. So tell us about this book. Who did you write this for? What's it about?
Yeah, so first off, I just want to say I'm so grateful to God for this opportunity. And I retired from the Army July of 2017. And I knew that I wanted to continue to serve the military community. And when I thought about the toughest time for me in the military, it was after I first had my children and just trying to manage being a mother while still being like in the military and staying on top of my job. And so that was a real struggle. And when I thought about that, I knew that what I had learned over the 10 years until I retired, that I could help people and be the mentor and the leader that I know that I am.
So this is the thing I think is interesting about your journey. You actually had quite a successful military career before you had kids, and then things changed for you. Talk about that shift and what you learned.
Yes, they did change. So after I had my kids, everything became a lot harder. Well, I mean, being a parent is hard to begin with. But then also being in the military, I had to worry about, well, what if I have to deploy and then my husband isn't stationed with me? And what if he deploys? And then at daycare, they'll call and be like, come get your kid. And I have to teach class in an hour. I can't just go and pick up my kid. So it just all the logistics and how to manage that, it became so much more challenging.
Do you feel like you went from being like a star to kind of sub-stellar? Like did the quality of your work go down, your commitment?
Yeah, actually it really did. I was teaching at West Point at the time, and I apologize now to any of my cadets because my classes, I just didn't have, I wasn't fully there to give. So when I was at work, I was thinking about my kids and feeling guilty for having left them at daycare. And then when I was at home, I was thinking about work and all the stuff that I hadn't done to prepare for class the next day. So I felt like I was always torn between these two different worlds and not doing well at either.
What would you tell yourself today? If you could go back in a time machine and talk to that woman, what would you say now?
I would say reach out for help. You do not have to do this alone. There's always someone that's there, and you're never alone.
Yeah, it's so hard when you feel like everything's changing and you want to be the best at being a mom and the best at your career. And then when you add to that the stakes of being in the military, where the stakes are very high. Yeah. So super powerful. Well, I'm going to ask you a question. Gary from Atlanta asks, when you feel the pressure of life and trying to keep your head above water, how do you get started to put your ideas to paper when you feel stuck? I'd love your thoughts on that. Did you feel, you obviously are still a mom, so did you feel when you were writing the book you still had obligations as a mom? I think you were also moving.
Yeah, we moved from the United States to Japan, and I really had to make time for myself. Like, I had to think about why I was doing this. Why was I writing this book, and who was I trying to help? And once I thought about, like, me 10 years ago, if I could have given her this advice, it really centered me, made me realize that what I'm doing is important, and I have to get this on paper. There are no excuses.
There are 2 tools that I like for getting unstuck. One is remembering who you're writing this for, remembering why you're doing this, which you mentioned. And the other is something you mentioned at the very beginning of this interview, which is God. Can you talk a little about your relationship with Source, God, however you kind of relate with a higher power, and how that inspired you on your journey?
Yeah, so part of my journey to just mindfulness was my spiritual journey. And for me, it means getting quiet and tapping in. I feel like there's always this constant chatter going on in my head, and that's not God. That's me, thinking about groceries. So I have to get quiet daily. It's a daily practice, and that's when I feel God speaking to me, and the inspiration comes from my heart. And that's how I know that I'm saying the right thing, I'm writing the right words, I'm taking the right action.
Yeah, I totally agree. So, Gary, that's our advice to you. Remember why you're doing this, and then tap it into what inspires and motivates you that's beyond your own busy life, because your life did not get less busy. No. That's not what happened. Do not wait for the cabin in Maine. It's not going to happen. But if you want to get your book done, that is how you do it. So Military and Mindful, it's 8 essential elements to manage your military career and motherhood, or whatever else you got going on. Here's what I'll tell you. If you are we just had Veterans Day. If you are somebody who says that they love and support the military and the brave men and women who stand for our freedom, then what you need to do right now is grab that Amazon link that you will see and give them a copy of their book. It obviously is focused on motherhood, but there are tips in here about mindfulness for anyone who has stuff going on in their lives, and that is all of us. So please share this book with someone you love, especially a mom who is in the military. And if that's you, go ahead and download a copy, and you will be hearing more from us and from Benef in the days to come. So thank you so much, and congratulations on your book.